Welcome back to the program. So we got a lot to cover. Before we get into the main topics, though, I've been talking about this criminal conspiracy, and others have been mentioning it, but no one's really been talking about it a lot. Well, today, a journalist by the name of Lee Smith was a guest on Maria Bartiromo's Sunday Morning Futures, and this is what the gentleman had to say.
And you would have Devin on and Cash on, and Cash is now the FBI director. There is no one who is better situated to investigate this. And you'll remember, I think that then Chairman Devin Nunes announced this on your show about the 8 different referrals that they sent the Department of Justice, one of which included a conspiracy charge. So with Kash Patel directing the FBI, knowing about that conspiracy charge, there's lots of optimism, or I'm very optimistic, and I think others should be too, that they are looking to build a much bigger conspiracy case.
Well, wanted to just touch on that because I thought that was important, because this is somebody that is a national security expert. He's been around a long time, and he agrees with my assessment as well. So fingers crossed that's going to be the case. Now, let's get into what I wanted to talk about. So we know that Antifa has just been wreaking havoc in Portland, Oregon, night after night, day after day. They've built these tents. They built this like little tent city, basically. You have the safe house right next to the ICE facility and all that, the immigration facility. Well, finally, today, the Portland police went in there and dismantled the whole thing. Now, were they getting pressure from ICE? Were they getting pressure from the Trump administration? I don't know. At this point, it doesn't matter. Because after 140 days of nightly garbage, yelling, screaming, bullhorns, nobody can sleep, lighting things on fire, pulling out fake guillotines, causing all kinds of havoc. Finally, there should be some sleep and some rest. That would be wonderful for these people that have been suffering for so long, but it's going to make it a lot easier now for the ICE and the National Guard to go in there and strong arm these Antifa idiots and arrest them and make them go away. Okay? So here's what it talks about. After 140 days of chaos, disorder, and lawlessness outside Portland's Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility, police finally moved in and cleared Antifa's encampment on Saturday morning. More than 30 officers braved heavy rain to dismantle the sites, ordering demonstrators to remove their tents, their supplies, and their gear that had been clogging the area for nearly 5 months. The encampment, long a symbol of Democrat weakness and a radical left-wing extremism, collapsed within hours. In other words, they're AstroTurf. They're not going to fight back. You know, they throw their Molotov cocktails, and they've got their gas masks on, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. And, they're dressed in black and everything else, but they're not tough. They are soy boy snowflake weaklings, okay? That's who they are. So, here's what it says. For conservatives and law-abiding residents of Portland, Oregon, it was a long overdue victory, definitely for public order. Since June, Antifa activists have effectively taken control of the streets outside ICE's South Portland facility. They have set up tents. They stockpiled medical supplies. They hauled in refrigerators. They even built barbecue grills and even party gear, transforming the public spaces into an illegal outpost. What Democrats and their allies in the media called a, quote, protest was in reality an anarchist encampment that endangered residents, disrupted the neighborhoods, and undermined the rule of law. Complaints poured in from local families about noise pollution, trash, safety hazards, but Democrat city leaders, of course, turned a blind eye for all those months. So on Saturday morning, it all came to an end. Police swept into these sites in an organized raid that resulted in 3 misdemeanor arrests for disorderly conduct. There was no large-scale resistance because Antifa activists, once emboldened by Portland's permissive leadership, finally realized that the public tide has turned against them. For the first time in 140 days, not a single Antifa agitator remained outside of the ICE facility. The encampment had become a stain on the city, yet it was tolerated by Portland's Democratic leadership, who consistently refused to confront Antifa violence. Instead of protecting residents, Democrat officials allowed extremists to set up camps and harass federal officials and officers, providing once again that Democrats cannot be trusted to maintain public safety. What have I been saying for years? Democrats can never be trusted with public safety and national security. Only when the situation became a national embarrassment did the police step in. Conservatives are right to celebrate the clearance, but the fight is not over. Portland's radical left will try to reestablish their encampment, and weak Democrat officials may once again stand down. Residents know the pattern. Antifa moves into the city, ignores the problems, and the communities suffer. It takes Republican pressure, public outrage, and a national attention to force even minimal enforcement. Antifa's 140-day occupation of a public street outside of the federal building should never have been allowed in the first place. But thanks to Saturday's raid, Portlanders finally saw what happens when law enforcement acts decisively. So this is great. This is wonderful news. Now, I think, and again, I can't verify this, but it would seem to me that ICE was probably putting pressure, the National Guard was putting pressure on the Portland police. They have a PR nightmare on their hands from not protecting the people. And I think what has happened is maybe there are some phone calls, Kristi Noem, maybe some others, maybe Stephen Miller, maybe President Trump himself saying, hey, get your act together or else. And so I think that's why the Portland police finally are stepping up and doing something. And so this is a great first step. It should make the rest of this a lot easier. Now, I want to switch gears to this because this is really disturbing, okay? When I always say follow the money, there's a reason for that. Antifa are not smart. This is not a, meticulously organized and, watches everything that they do type of group. This is a free-for-all, snowflakes, spoiled, rotten brats that have never had to work a day in their life and, have never had it tough. So they want everyone else to suffer because they don't work, they don't do anything, and they're basically a bunch of basement-type dwelling losers. Well, as I said before, it's not them that's the issue and the problem. It's who's funding them. Well, if you look on Amazon and you put in, let's just say, gas masks, okay? Just put it in there. Gas masks, right? You will find a whole bunch of listings. And then what you do is you go to best sellers. There's a little arrow. You click on it and you go to best sellers. And then you look and it'll show you who's ranked number 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and how many have been sold. Okay? Now, I always say what? Follow the money. How hard is it to subpoena the companies that are getting the most amount of purchases on masks, gas masks, I don't know, whatever, Kevlar, hoodies, whatever it might be that they are using in these types of environments. And the real question is, why aren't we subpoenaing the records? Okay, so listen to this. Massive purchases of Riot gear suggest Antifa backed by major dark money organizations. Well, I think that's pretty clear. For years, Antifa has positioned itself as a decentralized grassroots movement. Its members appear in the streets clad in black, hiding their identities behind masks and face coverings. And of course, they are always equipped with gas mask, goggles, and even tactical grade type of gear. While defenders dismiss this as, quote, spontaneous activism, recent findings suggest something much more organized and financed than the public has been led to believe. Digging through some of the patterns on Amazon in particular, and again, they're not going to go to Etsy, they're not going to go to Walmart.com, they're not going to go to Kmart.com. They're going to go where everybody goes to buy things, right? They're no different than anyone else. They're not good at hiding what they do. So they obviously went to Amazon. Clearly, someone's on Amazon buying hundreds and thousands of this type of equipment. So it says, suppliers report bulk orders. This is the important part. Sometimes exceeding 10,000 items in a single month. Now, these gas masks are advertised, for instance, for painting projects, and maybe you're doing some painting on a house or a car or something like that, and you don't want to breathe in the paint fumes, so you have these masks. I'm sorry, but there's not 10,000 art projects in a month that's going to make me or anyone else believe with a straight face that somehow these are being ordered in Portland, Oregon, and elsewhere for painting projects, okay? Not 10,000 in a month, and actually sometimes 1,000 in a week, okay? For months, these numbers have been there. So all I'm saying is, how hard is it to look at these orders through a Freedom of Information Act request, right? The Department of Justice can do it. The FBI can do it. Hell, even the individual groups can do it. Judicial Watch, American Center for Law and Justice, even probably James O'Keefe's group. I mean, all of these groups that can file subpoenas and Freedom of Information Act requests can reach out to these companies. So who are the big three? Well, it's pretty simple. 3M, you've heard of them, right? They do Scotch tape, and they do paint supplies, and they do art supplies, and they do all kinds of things. 3M, envelopes, I think they do. That's a big company. That's number one. Number two on there was, what was it called? Hopewell, I think it was called, was the second one. And then there was another one called Moldox. So all they have to do is reach out to those three companies. Those are the three biggest brand sellers of gas masks and riot gear, okay, that sell on Amazon. So if you know that, why wouldn't you just subpoena 3M, Hopewell, and Moldox, the three companies, and get a listing in, I don't know, Portland, Oregon, Chicago, Illinois, and Los Angeles, California, of who is purchasing all of this equipment in huge bulk numbers. You don't have to be an investigator or a genius or a law enforcement officer to figure out with common sense how things can be done, okay? So that's what I suggest. Take this video, put it out there anywhere, and put it attention to the people in this administration and some of the other people that I mentioned. I already have done it already earlier today, but the more people that get a chance to see it, and the more people that it gets in front of, who knows? Maybe they're already doing this, and this is just redundancy. I don't know. I don't have any idea. All I know is when I come up with these things and put these things out there, it's important that we start pushing it, because these ideas can lead to arrests. They can lead to money laundering. They could lead to extortion. They could lead to terrorism charges. They could lead to so many other things. Election interference, obstruction, interference with a police proceeding. The list is endless. And again, terrorism charges. These companies could be charged with terrorism charges. You are aiding and abetting people that are now been designated as a terrorist organization. Let's put this all together. Let's pull that little piece of thread and see what happens. And keep pulling it and pulling it and pulling it. And guess what? You're going to find out who's funding a lot of this stuff. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.